We begin tonight with a significant announcement from the CDC on COVID protocols. The recommendation for isolation has been cut in half, from 10 days to 5. We'll tell you what this will mean for businesses, including airlines hard hit by staff shortages. President Biden met today with his COVID response team and briefed the nation's governors amid a surge in new infections. We should note the number of new daily cases has risen above 200,000, nearing an all-time high. New York City's vaccine mandate, which requires nearly all private sector employees to be fully vaccinated, well, that took effect today. Meanwhile, officials continued preparations for what they describe as a scaled-back New Year's Eve celebration in Times Square. CBS's Nancy Chen is in New York with the latest. Nancy, good evening.
Major good evening to you. Here in New York, COVID hospitalizations have surpassed 5,000 for the first time since early March. Also tonight, there are new recommendations from the CDC for people who test positive for COVID and have no symptoms.
Tonight, a dramatic shift from the CDC. With Omicron raging and workforces depleting, the agency has shortened the recommended time for isolation after getting COVID from 10 days to 5, as long as people don't have symptoms. The CDC says it based the decision on new research. Those who are exposed to COVID but boosted will no longer need to quarantine. Those who are unvaccinated should still quarantine for 5 full days, according to the CDC. As COVID hospitalizations have been climbing, children are among those filling emergency rooms.
We're seeing a dramatic spike.
Dr. James Schneider is on the front lines at New York's Cohen Children's Medical Center.
Right now, we've moved backwards. It's really disheartening to see that this many months, if not years later in the pandemic, and we've gone back to what feels like the beginning of this.
It's happening nationwide. U.S. pediatric hospitalizations are now at their highest levels since September. In New York City, pediatric hospital admissions have quadrupled in 2 weeks. Among those patients between the ages 5 to 11, none had been vaccinated. Across the country, Omicron is sending daily caseloads soaring to levels higher than last winter's peak. New York and at least 4 other states are now reporting more daily COVID cases than at any other point in the pandemic. Last week, new COVID cases rose more than 300% in Florida compared to a week ago. And in Louisiana, Omicron has doubled hospitalizations in a week. 80% of those patients not fully vaccinated. As long lines persist around the country, President Biden said more testing is becoming available, but admitted it's still not fast enough. He urged the nation's governors to reach out for assistance.
Look, there is no federal solution. This gets solved at a state level.
Then out of nowhere, like a tornado the last couple of weeks, this Omicron comes in.
Just off Broadway, Sean Hayden prepared to reopen his restaurant today after having to shut down.
Those workers were getting sick. A number of them tested positive early on in December, and we were short-staffed. And in New York, it was, things were really, really good up until 3 weeks ago.
And the largest citywide vaccine mandate in the private sector is now in effect here in New York City. Starting today, workers at all 184,000 businesses must show proof of at least one vaccine dose, Major.
Nancy Chen, thank you.